Your prospect wants to buy your product, or at least that's what you think. You connect with them, you do a disco, you do everything, you send a proposal, but the issue is that you're just following up consistently, and this is leading nowhere. You found out that you're closing too late. What could you have done differently? On today's episode, we're going to break down exactly what you should have done, and it's not too difficult to implement. Check it out. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another great episode of the Sales Evangelist Podcast. I'm your host, Donald C. Kelly, the Sales Evangelist. And I'm so excited for another great episode. I'm so excited to be here with you today. And on this episode, I have an amazing guest. His name is Benjamin Dennehy. Now, Benjamin and I had a conversation early on about closing and about why this is so important. He's actually claimed as the UK most hated sales guy. And he has an amazing marketing campaign that he utilizes in strategy to be able to grab attention, and especially with the way that he breaks things down. It's very simple, it's engaging, and it makes it fun. And I feel like when you get a chance to hear his process of closing, why he's so passionate about the fact that we close way too late and how to fix it, you're going to see that you can apply it. If this is the first time listening to our podcast, go ahead and subscribe, and we'll notify you whenever we drop a new piece of content. Now, if you've been listening for a while, thank you. And I ask that you go ahead and leave us a rating and review and connect with your boy on LinkedIn. And I can tell you about some of our cool things that we're doing. Now, as we dive in, you'll get a chance to hear why prospecting and let's fix that. As we dive in, you'll get a chance to hear why closing can be so detrimental, especially if you're closing too late, but more so how you can go about fixing it. Check it out. Benjamin, welcome to the show.
Hey, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Of course, man. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. I'm excited for your insights, especially when it comes to closing. And I think you bring a unique twist to the typical sales ideology out there. And I love that the difference and uniqueness that you bring just makes it powerful. But closing in particular, oftentimes sellers are closing just way too late. They're waiting for to do the follow-up, like 6 million follow-ups, and hoping that could close, or maybe the prospect will come back and say, yeah, I'm ready now, or even try to do something dumb and cut prices at the end just in the hopes of getting something this quarter. I want us to tackle that conversation today.
Okay.
But before we dive into that,
Yeah.
tell me, why is this such a big issue when it comes to sellers closing so late?
I suppose there are two reasons. One, if you're always closing in the spot where the prospect is expecting it, they're waiting for it and they're ready, and they have their reasons why they don't have to move forwards already locked in. So I'll explain how that works. That's the first thing, is you're closing where they're expecting it. Which means which leads on to the second one, it means you're not in control. And control is the key to selling. Most salespeople forget they are the ones with all the power. We've been told the lie that the person with the money, the person with the gold makes the rules, and you're raised in believing that. And in fact, it's reinforced by your own personal buying behavior, because when a salesperson is out buying, they think the same thing. It's my money. I'm in charge here. Yeah, so they even believe it. So it's a fundamental core belief that someone who's got the money is in control. But actually, money only has any power if somebody wants it. If somebody doesn't want your money, it is useless. And so if you are able to maintain that mindset, we'd love your business, we'd like your business, but we don't need your business, then you fundamentally change how you behave and act. So it's a core belief. So most salespeople are accused of, they just don't have the confidence. It's not confidence. I've never met an unconfident salesperson, but I do meet loads of salespeople with the wrong beliefs, and your beliefs dictate your behavior. So that's why closing in the wrong place is very dangerous, because it loses control and the prospect's ready for it. So you're already set up to fail.
Yeah, I think that part is probably one of the biggest issues that I would go back to when I found my issues with closing. It definitely was a belief system, and I came subservient to the buyer, like, please, Mrs. Buyer, please, Mr. Buyer, like, definitely buy from me. When in actuality, it's not necessarily the case. There's more to it than that. So there's several things you and I touched based on before, and one of them was clo- um, closing in the wrong place.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit deeper on that.
Okay. So I call it the sales matrix. I named it that when I discovered it, saw it for the first time. It was presented to me and I realized it was true. And so I call it the matrix because just like the film The Matrix, you're living in a system that you don't know you're living in. And so when we're out selling, there are actually two systems at play. The buyer and the seller both have their own system, but the system is geared in favor of the buyer winning. And so it starts off like this. The first thing all buyers will do, you've heard the phrase buyers are lies. I don't like the phrase buyers are lies, but I do believe all buyers deceive because I deceive when I'm a buyer. We were raised to deceive. So by deceive, I
But
mean
why?
we tell
Why?
half.
Okay,
Why?
go. Yeah,
So
go.
we deceive by telling half truths. We embellish, we understate, we overstate. So when do you need this? If you really need something, you don't want to tell the salesperson, "Oh, I need it like now." Why? Because the fear is the price will go up. So you're like, well, ideally as soon as possible, but we're willing to wait a few days. So you like, what's your budget? I've got around about 80 bucks. You knowing you'll go to 120. So we all deceive through these little mechanisms, and we learned this from our parents because this is what mum and dad did. We tell someone we need to think it over when we really mean no. But we've discovered that if we say no to a salesman won't stop. So the mechanism is say, I need to think it over. And a salesman will take that because he needs hope to stick in his pipeline. He doesn't need actual opportunity, just hope. So first thing we do is deceive. The next step in our process is plunder. You may have something I want. I'm a prospect. You may have, but there's one caveat. I don't want to pay for it if I don't have to. So my job now is to pump you for information. So I invite you in. I lie to you. Are you the decision maker? Yes. Actually, I'm going to have to run it by my boss, or I'm going to discuss this with somebody else. Yeah. Do you have budget? No. But what I'll say is, if I like what I see, I can find it. Money won't be an issue. And all this, like, I lie to you to get you in, and then I pump you for information. Do you do this? Do you do that? How long would it take? How would it look? Who have you worked for? How long will it? Blah, blah. I pump you. And you're answering because you can't help yourself. You've been programmed to answer a question. And then this is why I say the close is wrong. At the moment this bit of the meeting ends, the exchange of knowledge, the exchange of information, you then as a salesman try and close me. I know you're about to close me at this point. I'm a prospect. I know this is the rule. So now you come to close me, and what do? I have my mislead, my misdirect already planned. And there are three ways that I get out of doing anything. So I've deceived you to get you there. I've pumped you for the information that I think I need that's going to help me move forward without any commitment. You try and close me, and then I come up with three reasons we can't move forward. First one is stalls. Look, guys, I would love to do this. But budgets won't be set until next quarter. Look, we've got a few other projects in place that we need to get done, but this is definitely high on our radar. So that's the first thing, we stall. The other one is higher authority. Look, if it were up to me, we'd start today. Unfortunately, I've got to discuss this with my lawyer, my chiropractor, my chiropodist. There's always some other But hold up, when we spoke on the phone, you said you're the decision maker. Oh, yeah, but I won't make this on my own. And then the other one is objections. Well, we met with ABC Company and they do this and they do that. Why can't you? And so they throw out reasons. Look, so they give you these three types of reasons why they cannot move forwards today. And then to kick it all off, this is when they do the worst thing, particularly in B2B. They then say to you, look, really enjoyed meeting with you. You've given us certainly a lot to think about. You couldn't just go away and perhaps send us something in writing, a proposal or a quote. This is what people call proposals or quotes. I call it, you couldn't document your stupidity for us, could you? Yeah, you could go away and put on paper everything you just spent an hour telling us so that we could shop this around or do nothing with it. Yeah, so that's what I mean by, and so we don't realize we follow the syntax. And then once they get the proposal, the final step is, what do probably 90% of prospects do once they get your proposal? What do? They hide. They disappear. They suddenly become unattainable. You get unlimited access to voicemail. Yeah. And then and I do this all the time. This is true. I ask salespeople, anyone experiencing this? And they all nod their head, yes. Anyone doing this right now? Yes. And I go, now, let me ask you a question. Just to prove how awful the system is, how it reduces you to vermin. How many of you had tried calling them from a different number? Oh, yes, I have. Yeah. Oh, how many of you tried calling at really odd times to catch them off guard? Yes, I have. Look at you. You're now scurrying around in the gutter trying to get back in front of this person. So that's what I call the matrix. They deceive, they plunder, they mislead, then they hide. And what it is you don't know that's happening to you until someone like me points it out, and it's like, oh my, that's our whole sales process. And you do that enough times, somebody buys.
Yep.
But who's in control of this process?
Not you as a seller.
Not you. It's all reactive. So it was created by the buyer to protect the buyer. It reduces you to a free consultant. It keeps the process completely intellectual. And it's designed to stop you from moving forward. So your goal, just like the Matrix, when I show you the reality, you've got to get out of the system. But there are two types of people. Those that do it, like me, and life becomes harder, but intimately you're freer and you're in control, just like the guys outside of the back. Or you can't handle it and you've got to go back to the Matrix. You just want to go back to what you know is comfortable because, well, this is easier. And we let the Matrix happen to us because this is the fundamental reason as well. You let this happen to you. No one can make you do this. You let it happen. The reason you let it happen is because that's how you buy. That's exactly how you behave when you are a prospect. So you empathize with it. When someone says to you, I need to think it over, do you know what most salespeople think? At a subconscious, they think, yeah, fair enough, I probably would too. Yeah. And so the Matrix is designed to keep you in your place. So that is why closing in the wrong place and not having control, you can't. The Matrix designs it so you have no control and close in the wrong place. It's brilliant. I love it. I mean, I think it's fantastic. It's probably even written on clay tablets in Egypt somewhere, right? This has been going on for thousands of years. I even believe Jesus told salespeople, I'll think it over. You know, that's how powerful it is. Yeah.
So it has it's not a rich history. But Benjamin, what is the good looks like though? What should I be doing? Is counter all of this stuff? Because the seller, they're sitting on the edge of their seats now. They're like, all right, he's describing me. I'm in this boat, but I have no clue how to get out of it.
Right. So you want to start closing at the beginning, which people say, well, how do you close something at the beginning? Again, people misunderstand the definition of close. Most people, if you've got a one call close, this is good. If you don't have a one call close, it's good. Closing is never usually, you must give me money. It's normally another step in a lot of people's. So I'm always closing for the next step that's going to happen. And it's no point doing that at the end of the meeting, because the moment you leave something at the end of the meeting, you give the buyer all the power to bail out. So you do it at the beginning. You do it when they're least expecting it. And so what you want to do is, and also this is fundamentally important, I'm never trying to get someone to say yes. I'm trying to get them to say no. It's easier to get a no than it is a yes. A yes is actually just a byproduct. So I go for no. So I do three things basically at the beginning of the meeting. I get permission from them to give me a no. If you genuinely don't think that what we have is something you want to move forwards with, or you don't think it's going to help you, can you tell me no today? There's only one person who can't give you a no. It's a non-decision maker. So instantly you'll know. If someone says, well, I can't give you a decision either way, your first question is, well, how the hell did I get here? How am I talking to someone that can't make a decision? You've already screwed up, right? So if you're talking to a president or a CEO or a director level, they will often say, yeah, I can give you a no. Don't worry. If I'm not interested, I'll tell you. Great. Now I'm going to ask loads of questions to figure out if we can, work with you. Can I do that? And everyone says, ask whatever you need. And then I go on for my no. Would you be terribly upset if based on your answers, I didn't think we could help you? And they go, no, I'd rather know if you can't help us. Great. Last thing then, if we don't say no to each other, what we'll do is we'll set aside a couple of minutes at the end and agree a next step on how to move forwards. Would that be fair? Now, at this point, because we've all agreed that we can give each other no, logically, if you don't say no, then the next step, well, you have to agree to move forwards. So
Yeah.
that everyone says, yeah, that would be fine if we get that far. I don't have a problem doing that. And I go, great. Oh, one more thing then. Shall I tell you what the next step is? Because I've only got one. You should only have one next step. Everyone's only got one next step. And then you tell them what this next step is. My next step is X, Y, and Z. Knowing that, do you still want to have this conversation if we get that far? So now they go, so if we don't get to the end, if it's not a no, then that's what the next step is. Yeah. Are you comfortable doing this conversation knowing that that would be the outcome? Now you could get to, well, I don't want to make a decision either way. Well, look, if you know by the end of this meeting that we're not right, you could still say no, though, couldn't you? Well, yeah, then let's just do that.
Yeah.
So you get to the end of the meeting, and now what happens? I often get clients say, well, prospects say to me, so is it a no from you? Of course, I never answer a question. I never answer a question, so I always say, so what are you hoping I'm going to say?
Oh, my goodness.
But if you get to the end and they say, I need to think it over, go, that's fine. If you need to think it over, just say no. Can I ask you a question, Mr. Prospect? Yeah. Man to man or off the record, 9 out of 10 times in your world, what does a think it over usually mean? They all say the same thing. It means no. So just say no. You know how hard it is to get someone to say no when you keep asking them to give you a no?
Yeah.
And if they say, well, I don't, say, it's fine. I can say no if you like, if you don't want to. My job is I'm leaving this meeting with a no or a next step. That's incredibly uncomfortable and challenging to do for most salespeople because they're of the opinion, well, I'm in their boardroom, I'm eating their biscuits, I'm sitting on their chair in their office. I called them. Who the hell am I to dictate this process? I'll tell you who you are. You're the person with the solution. They're the person with the problem. The only thing they have over you is choice of where they spend their money.
Yeah.
And if I'm going to give my money to someone, I want to give it to someone that's actually in control, that knows what they're doing. Someone that makes me believe, you know what? I like the cut of this guy's jib. These guys are serious players. So so that's how we do it. That's how we close at the beginning. Now, I've gone through that very quickly. Just to give you a quick overview, there's a bit of nuance to it and stuff, but that's how you do it. So I know at the end of this meeting, so does the prospect, what's going to happen. And one last thing, how do you think prospects start to behave once they know what's going to happen at the end? What do you think happens to them?
They start giving you the real information. I think
they start to...
Yeah, you're not dinkering around anymore because this is now way more serious. And the way I look at it is like, this is somebody that, if you think about it in the dating world, just makes it so simple. But this is someone that I can marry, so therefore I'm going to keep commitments. And this is not just like, play around thing. I'm looking for a real relationship. And I think the same thing applies with our prospect is the insights and stuff that you need are more valuable. And it's just that they're going to be, I find it, more engaged with you throughout that process.
Well, what it is part of this is to lower the defense walls. Remember, everyone's lying and deceiving. So my job is to lower that wall of mistrust. The other thing is when you know what's going to happen to you, you can relax.
Of course.
There's no surprise. If you follow the matrix, they're waiting for the close. They're waiting for when you're going to come in and try and do the ta-da. And so they've got their, with this, that changes. You're no longer in the matrix now. You're not following the syntax that they're expecting because they're expecting you to act a certain way. And salespeople always say to me, well, I always get treated this way. Well, if you want to be treated differently, you have to act differently. You can't just want people to treat you differently. Yeah. So I act completely differently. And because I act differently, they can't put me into the matrix. And once I'm out of the matrix, I'm able to be in control of what's going on. And I'm not here to figure out how to sell to you. I'm here for you to convince me why I should let you buy from me. That's a fundamental change in mindset. I love your business, but we don't need it. And unless you're willing to follow our sales process, then we can't work with you. And people say, well, I get a lot of pushback on this. And I go, well, think about it. 99% of your life, you follow the seller's process. You go to the cinema tonight and say to the kid on the counter, I'll tell you what, mate, I'll pay you on the way out if I like it. Some kid with pimples is going to have more authority to tell you to fuck off than someone in a £3,000 suit selling an expensive SaaS system. Go to McDonald's and say, "I'll pay you after the meal if I enjoy it." We are so used to paying for stuff up front that it's only when you become a salesman with a fancy car and a big product that you can't get paid for stuff up front that you got to do what the prospect wants. You go to McDonald's and try and change the ordering system, they'll tell you to fuck off, right? So if a kid with a pimple selling a burger can do it, then you can do it. You've just got to grow a pair. Yeah, but we've never been taught this because we're always taught that the person with the money, particularly in B2B sales, makes the rules. We need their business. We want their business. We have to have their business. You're thinking like a loser.
Yeah, you're definitely subservient by all means, and you have zero control. And I think that's where that next point was a lack of control. And I see how that can happen. Control. How can I go about then getting that full control or getting that control? Is that like what you're saying earlier? We dictate this is a process that the map of how they follow, or this is how people invest with us,
it goes back to the matrix. A traditional sales meeting typically opens one of two ways. Either the prospect says, "Well, why don't I tell you a little bit about us?" And they vomit on you for 5-10 minutes talking about their business and who they are. And then they flick it over to you. Okay, well, look, okay, and then you normally do some potted little history of who you are, start to ask some fact-finding discovery questions. Of course, all these questions are designed to ascertain fact and information that let you talk about you or your product. So it's not really a fact find. It's more of a, can I talk about me in this meeting fact find? Yeah. Or the meeting starts the other way. The prospect takes control by saying, "I tell you what, why don't you start, Benjamin? Why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself, why you're here, and what you think you could do for us?" So that is the prospect always being in control. So I change it. And if they say, "Okay, yeah, fine, but before we start, can we just agree I take control. Before we start, can we agree a couple of things?" And I agree this every time. Then the most important one in between it is I'm going to ask a lot of questions. Tough, challenging, and maybe uncomfortable. Is it okay if I do that? I'm doing that because that's what I'm going to do. I plan to do very little talking about me in this meeting. It's going to be me asking the questions. This meeting is for me to determine if you can be our customer. I'm not here to convince you to buy our stuff. Why am I not here to convince you to buy our stuff? I'll tell you why. We've built a $100 million company selling this crap. We know it works. We're not here to go through a dog and pony show to convince you why you should buy it. The question for us is, why should we let you have what's made us a lot of money and will probably make you a lot of money if you do it? Help me understand that. And this is a fundamental shift in mindset, which salespeople struggle with but they got the money. Who cares? You're very successful. You don't need this one account.
No.
So I'm in control. This is my meeting. I'm here to figure out if we can move forwards. And the language I use changes. Well, by the end of this meeting, I need to be convinced. Can you convince me? Look, can I be upfront with you, Mr. CEO? Do you know if you work with us, how much time and money you're going to have to invest to make this work? And can I be blunt with you? We install these all the time. So if we're not convinced that this is something you can commit to, we will tell you so. Because we know from experience that this deal will fall apart or the process will become so cumbersome that you'll get pissed off. So unless we're convinced and you change and once you make the prospect realize I've got to work for the business as opposed to you convince me I'm the man with the money, it changes the entire way you behave. So when people say I want to be treated differently, fine, act differently.
Yeah.
This is it. How you act will determine how you get treated. And right now, you let prospects treat you like nothing more than a biological Google.
You mentioned this idea of the free proposal before, and you hinted towards it. Why is this a problem, and how do you get around the free proposal give out?
It's again. This is again. Every company you meet says you can't self-propose. You can't do this in our industry. Nobody does it. And I point out, there must have been a point in history where everyone paid for proposals. Otherwise, why do people drive around with vans saying free quotes?
Yeah,
You only have,
yeah,
why do they drive around saying? So obviously, at some point, so we used to pay for these sorts of things. But the way you do it is, so remember when I mentioned my next step? I guess shall I tell you what the next step is? Now
yeah.
this. You got to make good. So I got a real sexy one. And I say to a CEO, go, look, if we're going to do this training gig, the odds of you agreeing to give me £60,000 at the end of this meeting are pretty slim. I said, I know that. I'm not an idiot. I'm not going to stop you. If you want to do it, I'll take your money. But I know that the odds of that happening are slim because you are going to want to know, not only am I right for you, but you're going to want to know, will your guys like me? Do they want to spend more time with me? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the following. And I sell on this taster session day. And I explain what I'll do and what it'll look like. And I give them this beautiful picture. Then I say, and I'll end with one question. And that is, can you give me a reason why this wouldn't work in your world if you could do it properly? Not how, yeah? And they say, yeah. And I go, so how does that sound as a next step? And everyone says yes. I give them a next step that they want, something of good value. They all go, yes. I go, are you sure? Yeah. That sounds like a very good next step. I'd be up for that. So now that I've got them saying they want it, that's when I go, but by the way, I don't do that for free. I charge X amount. Now, two things happen here. They either say fine, which is good. I'll challenge fine, though. If anyone says, yep, that's fine, I challenge it. No. No one's that quick to want to spend £6,000. So now I've got to challenge it. Is this a Chris Voss counterfeit? Yes. So if somebody says, yep, that's fine. If somebody says, yes, that's fine, I go, what do you mean that's fine? Most people ask me to leave about that. How come you're so happy to give me 6 hours? And then they start to justify. Well, I didn't expect it to be free. Actually, we do something similar. Yeah. So then you find out their reasoning why they said fine. Or they say, okay, I don't know. They're trying to give some, well, that's more than I was thinking. Like, okay, so what were you hoping was going to happen by the end of this meeting?
You give me something for free?
Yeah. That's what. Well, we've met with your competitors and they don't do this. Okay, fair enough. Can I ask you an uncomfortable question? Is there any reason why you haven't bought from them? Well, we're just doing our due diligence. Okay, now that makes sense. Well, look, I'll tell you what. If you don't want to pay for the next step, you can still say no at the end of this meeting. You do realize that. And they go, okay, yeah, but let's say we get to the end of the meeting and you actually want to move forwards. Are you comfortable that that would be the next step? If not, tell me now. It's okay. If you can't afford it, just say you can't afford it. I'll leave. It's not a problem. No. It's not that we can't afford. You see, this is good. If we're going to argue about money, I'm going to argue about it now. I'm not going to wait till the end of the meeting to find out you're broke. No, it's not the money, Benjamin. It's just I wasn't expecting it. Okay, that's fine. Well, look, you want it? It's fine. If you don't want to do the meeting, I understand. No, we'll do the meeting. Are you sure? Yeah. So now they know they're focused. The rest of their meeting, this is a good meeting now because I focused them. They know at the end of this meeting. Because what if we get to the end of the meeting and they want to move forwards with me? Yeah. Well, at least they now know. At least if I had not done that and we got to the end of the meeting and they wanted to move forwards with me, and then I spring on them, this is the next, and it's 5K. Well,
I need to think about it.
I wouldn't have gone ahead with the meeting. Yeah. So I know how prospects behave.
Yeah.
So I'm able to control them because I would do the same. If you told me at the end and put a price tag, I'd say, well, had I known that, I wouldn't have done the meeting. Bullshit, you wouldn't have done the meeting. You're just saying that now. I know that. You know that. Yeah? So I don't take this crap because I know everybody's lying to me in this process because I am a salesman and I am deserving of no worth or value or respect. That doesn't upset me. That doesn't bother me. I use this to my advantage now. This is what I try. Salespeople go out there just try to be themselves. Don't be yourself. You're a loser. If you had any salt, you wouldn't be in sales. You would have found something better to do. The only reason you're here is because you needed a job. Let's be blunt. So this is why people hate me, because they know I'm true. 99% of people are in sales because I needed a job. This isn't what they wanted to be as a kid. They just ended up here.
And they got some.
It's society's dumping ground for the terminally unemployable.
Well, Benjamin, you laid out a lot this afternoon to us. Here's
Good.
what I want to ask you.
Yes.
If there's one thing you want a leader listening to this episode to walk away with, they're thinking how they can implement it. What's that one major piece of advice you want the leader to lead with?
Well, the biggest piece of advice is you have to have no attachment to the outcome. The reason I'm able to act like this is because I don't care if I sell or not. And I trained as a lawyer, so I look at selling like law. And when you have a trial, everyone in the trial has roles to play. You got the judge, the jury, the defense, and the prosecution. Now, a defense lawyer's job, he could have a client he absolutely hates. Worst of what, a child killer. Everyone hates child killers and you want them to go down forever. But if you're the defense lawyer, your job is to go in and argue the best that you can for this person. And you have to, even if you don't like them, you can't deliberately screw up your process to lose. You do the best that you can. And whatever happens at the end, if he gets convicted, oh, thank God, I still did my job. Or if at the end you win, part of you would be, well, we won, so in a way I'm kind of glad because we kind of did win. But the other thing is, I only did my job, though. So I'm only interested in how you get to the outcome, not whether or not you get it. And if you focus on how you get there, other than if you get there, that's what makes you a professional. The outcome is irrelevant so long as you've done your job well. If I go through my whole process and it turns out I disqualify someone, they can't be a customer, then that's good. I've done the process. It's not what I wanted. I want their money. I'd like their money. But it's not meant to be. So focus on how you get there, not whether you get there. And that'll detach you from the outcome. And once you are no longer emotionally detached, you can be objective. You can ask tough questions. You seek trying to be liked. You seek trying to win favor. You seek doing things for free, because you're not trying to win them over. So that would be the biggest advice. Focus on how you get there so you can detach from the outcome.
I love it. Love it, man. Listen, Benjamin, if folks want to get in touch with you to learn more about your process, what's the best way for them to go about doing so?
Okay, so I got a deal for your listeners. I thought I'd give you a deal.
Snap.
So
snap. I got to think about it.
No. You're throwing in an objection.
Yeah. No, yeah, because, just like the prospects will tell you, I got to think about it. So, no, I'm messing with you. He already told me he was going to have a deal for you guys. Go for it, Ben.
Yeah. So I've got these two small, short courses, 10 reasons why your prospecting fails and how to bulldoze your way through objections. I normally sell them for $197. But if your listener DMs me on Instagram, and they use the code, let's say Kelly, because that's your surname. Let's
go with TSE.
TSE.
Yeah, they know that one.
TSE. Okay. If you DM me on Instagram, TSE, you'll get a link that will give you free access to these two courses so you can access it and enjoy them. And then also, because I'm being generous, I've got a platform where I do live one-to-one Q&A sessions a couple of times a month. You'll also be given the opportunity to come along to one of those for free. Normally, that's exclusively for my subscribers. But if you do this deal through TSE, I'll do that. Otherwise, find me on YouTube. Not hard. UK's most hated sales trader. LinkedIn. UK's most. You'll start to see a pattern. If you just put in UK's most hated sales trader, I don't think you're going to come across someone else by mistake. I'm pretty sure you're not going to come across someone else by mistake. I could be wrong.
Oh my goodness.
So that's it. TSE to Instagram.
Awesome, man. Well, we'll put this in our show notes so folks can get access to it. Benjamin, thanks for taking the time to come on our show today. Appreciate it, man.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I hope I didn't scare your audience off.
I think they're pumped. Man, I'm telling you, Benjamin was a hoot. Brought some fire to this conversation. If you'd like to go ahead and connect with Benjamin, you can find details about that in the show notes. Tell him that you heard him here on the Sales Evangelist podcast. And I know he would be pumped and excited. Go ahead and take advantage of his offer. You can DM him on LinkedIn, on Instagram, and send TSE. We have that in our show notes, TSE, to get access to that objection handling and some of the other offers that he has there. Listen, I want you guys to thrive. I want you to succeed. I want you to be able to get the help that you need. And whether you're taking advantage of this episode content or you want to jump into our sales mastermind, would love to have you do that as well. Go to thesalesevangelist.com/mastermind. When it's all said and done, I want you to be successful. I want you to be able to find your ideal customers. I want you to know how to work with them to be able to discover the challenges and help them to progress forward. And I want you to be able to close more deals effectively. Most importantly, I want you to raise your level of thinking and go out and do big things. See you on the next one.